Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission in the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and providing you with an embarrassment of lore along the way.
What?
If you'd like,
I'm not embarrassed.
If you'd like to play along, aren't you embarrassed? You know so much about Halo.
I've worn Halo shirts, and someone was like, I was checking out at like a gas station or something, and someone was like, "Oh, you like Halo? Have you read the books?" I'm like, yes, I have read the books. Stop talking to me. I don't want to talk.
Don't look at me. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter, or you can send us a voicemail, which somebody did, and we're going to cover off on that today.
Or you can find Chris at a gas station.
Yeah, and talk to me about the Halo
give
books.
her your
Yeah.
thoughts.
If you like what you hear, want to support the show, visit Evolved on Patreon for everything Evolved has to offer. Visit evolvedhalo.com.
It's time for Mission Debrief, Spartans.
This episode, we're recapping Halo Infinite and discussing how it stacks up against the other 7 so there's 8 total now, FPS games in the franchise. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
Would you consider the wait for more Halo Infinite content endless?
Oh ho ho.
I think I would. So if you follow, we're looking at the script. I was looking at some thesaurus words for endless.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So they could have called Halo Infinite. They could have also called it Deathless. They could have called it Eternal. They could have called it Self-Perpetuating.
Ooh, I love it. Halo self-perpetuating.
Halo Undying.
Ooh.
Amaranthine, I think, is it something?
That's definitely a word, I guess.
Flower, maybe? I don't know. There's lots of
You're just making stuff up now, Colin.
they could have used. All right, this is the recap, so I'm going to recap the story so far. 8.5 games. David and Chris are going to take a nap while I read this as fast as I can. I'll try not to screw up. Excuse me, here we go.
You can do it.
In Halo Reach, we suited up as Noble Six and were deployed with a team of Spartans to do everything we could to repel the invading Covenant forces. Noble team members were picked off one by one, and the UNSC had to admit defeat, but not before the Pillar of Autumn escaped from the planet's glassing. That was July 24th, 2552 to August 30th, 2552. In Halo CE, we dropped out of slipspace and explored a mysterious Halo ring that Cortana randomly brought us to. As Master Chief, we battled the Covenant, discovered the Flood, and realized we had to destroy the ring world superweapon in order to save all life in the galaxy. That was September 19th, 2552 to September 22nd, 2552. In Halo 2, the mystery of the Covenant and their diabolical motivations are finally revealed. Playing as both the Arbiter and Master Chief, we defended Earth, discovered another Halo, fought more Flood, witnessed the downfall of the Covenant, chatted with the Gravemind, teamed up with the betrayed Sangheili race to stop Tartarus from firing Delta Halo, and then chased after the Prophet of Truth to finish the fight on Earth. That was October 20th, 2552 to November 3rd, 2552, and then also November 17th, 2552, the very end cutscene where Lord Hood talks to Chief. And then in the Anniversary Edition, there is a little bit of business happening in October 27th, 2558. That's with Jameson Locke. In Halo 3 ODST, Alpha 9 was deployed to help repel the Covenant's surprise invasion of Earth, but their orbital drop went awry. The team was scattered across New Mombasa and had to fight their way back together in order to protect an asset that could have been the key to winning the war. This was October 20th, 2552 to October 21st, 2552. The epilogue is November 15th, 2552, and the legendary ending is November 17th, 2552. That's when Chief shows up in Halo 3. Master Chief crash-landed on Earth and immediately teamed up with Sergeant Johnson and the Arbiter in an attempt to stop Truth from activating the portal to the Ark. However, Truth and the Brute-led Covenant force prevailed and made the jump to Installation 00 just as the Flood re-entered the fray. The UNSC and Sangheili make a quick alliance and chase Truth through the portal. On the Ark, Truth captured Johnson, murdered Miranda Keyes, and then activated the Halo array. Chief and the Arbiter stopped the firing sequence with the help of the Flood and then rescued Cortana from the Gravemind on High Charity. Our heroes then used a newly created ring to destroy the Flood, decimate the Ark, and escape with their lives. Well, most of their lives. This was November 17th, 2552 to December 11th, 2552, with the epilogue on March 3rd, 2553. We made it to a new year! We did it. All right, and then 343 Industries takes the reins. In Halo 4, after 4.5 years of floating in deep space, a potentially rampant Cortana woke Master Chief when nearing a Forerunner shield world named Requiem. With a Zealot Covenant sect and the newly discovered Prometheans breathing down their necks, the duo got tricked into releasing the Didact while trying to contact the UNSC supercarrier Infinity. The Didact escaped Requiem and used the Composer to start digitizing humans on Earth to take vengeance on his old foes and reclaim the mantle of responsibility. Cortana sacrificed herself to help John 117 defeat the Didact, destroy the Composer, and return home. This is July 21st, 2557 to July 25th, 2557. In Halo 4 Spartan Ops, the UNSC Infinity went back to explore Requiem 6 months after the composing event at New Phoenix. Jewel and Dama's Covenant were spread throughout the SHIELD world and searching for Forerunner secrets. Fireteams Majestic and Crimson, among others, were deployed to claim the ancient technology for humans. However, it's Dr. Catherine Halsey's cunning that enabled her to make a loose alliance with Jewel and uncover the librarian's best-kept secret, the Janus Key. The key was split in half and separated between the two factions while Requiem is sent to its fiery doom. This is February 2558. Now in Halo 5 Guardians, Cortana is alive! Master Chief's longtime partner made an alliance with the Warden Eternal to repair herself within the Forerunner domain and lured Blue Team to the planet Genesis, where she could discuss her plans for the Created to take over the mantle of responsibility. Cortana unearths an army of gigantic guardians to enforce her plan of imperial peace, including one located on Sanghelios, where the Arbiter is purging the remains of the Covenant. Meanwhile, Jameson Locke's fireteam Osiris assassinated Jewel and Dama and rescued Dr. Catherine Halsey before setting out to hunt down Blue Team. Fireteam Osiris eventually saves Blue Team from Cortana's cryptum, but not before her guardians were deployed throughout the galaxy. This is October 23rd to October 28th, 2558. Now, in Halo Infinite, the UNSC's plans to contain Cortana and her totalitarian ideals are interrupted and usurped by Atriox and his Banished. Cornered on Zeta Halo, Cortana realizes her mistakes and sacrifices herself to deny the Banished a functional genocidal superweapon. 6 months later, Master Chief is found floating in space by a hopeless engineer deserter. With the help of Weapon, a copy of Cortana, the trio pieced together fragments of the UNSC forces and loosened the Banished grip on the installation. While Chief was sleeping, the Banished war chieftain Escharum had unearthed an emissary of the undocumented species that had been imprisoned by the Forerunners on Zeta Halo. Master Chief defeats Escharum and then stops the Harbinger from awakening her fellow Endless, at least for now. This is December 12th. 2559, that's the intro, and then the end of the game is May 28th to May 31st, those 3 days, 2560. Whew. Out of breath.
That's a lot of stuff. Go through the books as well, please.
Now do the books. All right, so that sets the table for what we're going to talk about a bit, but we do have a couple voicemails we want to cover off on quickly. Andrew from North Dakota sent us 2 voicemails. And we may or may not play them now, but he had a thought on the timing, and we talked about this earlier in this series, the timing of when Weapon is deployed and Chief is back on Infinity, and the original plan was for Chief to take the Weapon down, but then Chief's on the Infinity, and that's all confusing, and we agree that it's confusing, but there is an audio log, and I'm not remembering the exact one, where... who's our captain boy, our golden retriever? Lasky. Yeah, so the Banished come and they're attacking the Infinity, and Lasky's like, we gotta deploy the weapon now, send her down. So they just kind of beam her down to do her thing, and Chief is up defending the UNSC Infinity. So that the original plan never happens because the Banished interrupted, but they still do get the weapon down. He does send us another question about the Pelican Down mission, and we had commented about how the Pelican is flying, and then those AA guns shoot it down, and then at the very end of the mission, the Pelican is fine somehow, but nobody actually fixed it. So Andrew's thought is that it got hit and it was damaged enough that the pilot decided it needed to be landed versus crashing into the installation and not being functional. So it was like a preemptive landing down, and then it was still functional enough to then take off after that. Which, yeah, that works. I still would have liked it had been smoking or something, but yeah. So that helps explain a little bit. Like he had the fortitude enough to say, okay, well, I have to land, otherwise this thing's not going to be able to fly. So
Okay.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Okie dokes. Thank you, Andrew, by the way, for calling in. We love it when we hear feedback from our listeners. So I set the table with all the stuff, all the things that we've played in the main games. There's obviously more games and books and all that other stuff. But I do want to talk about kind of what we've got in Halo Infinite, kind of some of the main story beats. Then we'll do some comparison about the games, and we'll do some rankings and some speculation too. But I think a lot of the conversation is going to be around here. Let's talk about the Banished. So the Banished we experienced in Halo Wars 2. So if you played all the Halo games, they're not new. They've shown up in the lore recently because they had to, right? They've been around for a while. They've been kind of retrofitting them into the story. I'll throw it to David first. Talk about your experience fighting the Banished in Halo Infinite. Do you like them as a replacement to the Covenant? Did it feel different? Did it feel the same? What were your thoughts?
It feels great. I love the Banished. The Banished, I've been saying it for years, even when we had from Halo Wars 2 onwards, that the Banished need to come into the main games.
Yep.
They're perfect. They're exactly what you need when you take down the Covenant. Mm-hmm. You have the not Covenant that come in and take over. So I like them. I like their premise. I like their background. We had said before, it was never really clear what Atriox's goal really was. Like, what's his motivation? What's he actually trying to do? They gave them an amazing motivation in this game.
I think so.
Via Cortana wiping out their home planet. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, now they're in gear. They have a function. They're coming after Cortana. And I love that. I think that's a great setup.
They never tied back so when in Halo Wars 2, we were curious about Atriox's motivation. And it's not the same, right? Like, Doisak doesn't get destroyed. Well, does Doisak get destroyed when he goes and finds the Ark?
No.
We don't know
this
exactly
is way
the timing.
after that.
It's after, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we still don't know why he went to the Ark, or how he found the Ark, and maybe that will be uncovered at some point. But in terms of this game, the motivation does make sense, as opposed to Halo Wars 2 is still kind of like, we're not really sure what's going on.
Yeah, no, I love the Banished. I love playing against them. They feel good. They're good to fight.
And it's a way.
It's good variation.
It's a way for them to fit all the races that we know, and maybe add a couple. Just give them red armor.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to see a bit more. Like, I mean, there's Atriox is not. He's not a space racist. He takes anybody. Yep. So we know there is humans in the Banished somewhere.
Or at least there were before.
There were before, yeah. There's. So I'd like to see some of that, and then I guess like certain races are more represented. Obviously the brutes, and I don't know. They're cool. They're a good mix. I like them.
Krista, what are your thoughts on the Banished?
Pretty much the same. I love them. I think they're great. I think they're a great replacement to the Covenant. They're fun to fight. They make sense. Like, they make so much sense. They're a great rival. The Storm Covenant and Jumandama never kind of filled that position very well, so it's nice to have something to fill the void that the Covenant left.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if they're more brutal, but maybe just because the brutes are more a bigger part, and they're led by the brutes, it feels like they're more brutal, and they have those berserkers, and you have the boss battles and things like that. Do you think did the Banished feel like more of a threat than the Covenant? Like, do they feel, I don't know, harder to fight or more difficult?
Like in the games, no, but like in the lore perspective, I don't think they're like scarier or like as big a bad because they're a military force, not a religious one.
Mm-hmm.
So like you won't see banished glassing planets. Do you know what I mean? Or
right.
that kind of stuff. Now I think you can read some of the background and the high value targets,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about these people are terrible. Do you know what I mean? All of the atrocities they've done and all that kind of stuff. So like there are obviously like bad eggs in there, and they're obviously like in charge. And Atriox obviously values them to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's elements of it there. We just really haven't seen it. But I think the Covenant might have been scarier because they're a more wider, unified force. Like as big and bad as the Banished are, I think the Covenant were bigger and badder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't really know the scale of the Banished yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that they're smart, and there's enough of them to overwhelm the UNSC, as they did here. But we still don't, like, in the other games, and with all the lore, you assume that the Covenant is fucking everywhere. And we just don't know exactly how far the reach of the Endless, or the Banished is here.
We also don't know what their, like, overall motivation is. Like, we knew what the Covenant wanted. They wanted to eradicate all humans and fire a Halo ring.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we don't know exactly. So the Banished want a home world. They want a ring, but then what? What are they going to do with it? And then and we'll talk about the Endless in a little while. What does Atriox want to do with the Endless? I have some speculation, but I'll say that. Boss battles. We have lots of bosses to deal with. I feel like I think some of that is the introduction of boss battles is because this is Halo Infinite and it's a newer game. There's new technology. We can do boss battles more often in this giant open world, but then it does also fit with the militaristic structure of the Banished. Like those, I feel like having boss battles made sense. Like the high value targets, and then there's obviously a lot of boss battles throughout the game. Looking back, were there too many boss battles, David? Was there the right amount?
No,
were they varied enough?
I think there was a good amount. They were spread them out. Obviously, you have a back-to-back between Jaga and Escharum. I'm typically not a fan of back-to-back boss battles like that, but it is what it is. It made sense. It was the ramping up of the end of the game. No, I think they're okay. I like the ones in the open world and stuff like that. They're really good, and there's a few other ones. Obviously, changes based on legendaries. They're the hardest part of the game, and obviously I'm still stuck on Jaga. But I like them. I feel like, as we've mentioned it before, but I feel like the hand of Atriox wasn't well represented in the game. I thought like they were the guys. You know what I mean? These were going to be boss battles building up of you taking out this team of Spartan killers.
Mm-hmm.
Making it a big deal, and they really, other than Jaga, they really weren't.
Because boss battles, there's a couple in previous Halos, but is this just like a natural evolution of Halo because Halo's a video game and boss battles boss battles have always been a thing in video games, but Halo has only done it sparingly, but they're so pervasive now in Halo Infinite. Do you think that's the right move to have that be a thing in Halo?
I don't think so. I don't think you need a boss battle. It's not like boss battles aren't a Halo defining mechanic, like you said. We've only had a few of them throughout the years in the games, and we don't talk about them that often. They're not big moments. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And especially in this one, I mean, the Harbinger boss battle isn't even the most memorable one, and that's the climax of the game.
Yeah, I would almost consider that one just like an encounter, like a difficult encounter. I mean, she is the boss, but there's also lots of other Halo stuff happening in that room. But, Krista, what are your thoughts on the boss battleness of Halo Infinite?
I think it works. I think they're going for more of a RPG style for Halo moving forward, especially with all the stuff we've kind of seen in Halo Infinite. So I think it makes sense. It's definitely a lot more like Destiny that they're kind of moving towards, and I think that's fine. I think the boss battles were fun. They made sense. I have no qualms with boss battles.
Did you have a favorite boss battle? What were the better boss battles?
Dude, Jago was great.
Jago was good.
David hates it because he's stuck on Legendary, but Escharum was great.
I liked that it was different. It wasn't just a bullet sponge. He was proper stealthing. He was sneaking you around. He was messing with your head. It was a cool environment.
Yeah, the Hyperius and Tavares one was different, I feel like.
Yeah.
It was a big wide open area. You had to kill two at the same time, but it wasn't too difficult. I did like Escharum as well. The Harbinger was just kind of frustrating. That's more of an encounter than just a one-on-one boss battle. But I don't know. David, did you have a favorite, or did any stick out on top for you?
I guess the Jaga's probably the one that's in my mind for obvious reasons. House of Pain, you fight him. I don't know.
They ramp up pretty well, right?
Yeah, they do.
So they do get more and more difficult, and then I like how there's the mini boss battles, the high value targets throughout, which I feel like there'll probably be more of those, and hopefully they just make those a little more interesting. They were fine in Halo Infinite, but like give me, either more interesting environments or maybe just a little mechanic just to switch it up a bit, so it's not just you shooting them in the face or clearing all of their buddies out and then shooting them in the face, or just blowing them up because it's a grunt. Those were funny.
Okay, those were hilarious though. Like those were funny.
Yeah. One more thing, just because you made me think about it before we switch off to the UNSC, the RPG-ness of it, and we could talk about this anywhere, but just touch on it. Was this enough? Like the upgrades, was this too much? Was this a good introduction? Do you think they'll take it further, Krista? What do you think?
I think
about
they could
upgrading?
lean into it just slightly more, but it's a good balance. It definitely is. It still kind of retains a Halo feel to it, but you can upgrade, you can spawn in weapons, you have bases, all that kind of fun stuff is really great to see.
Mm-hmm. David, any thoughts on kind of upgrading your Spartan or any RPG elements that were introduced?
It makes sense because we know from the lore that like these suits are very upgradable, and they have different modules you can swap out and do things. So I liked how obviously the grapple shot's amazing and changes so much of this game. But no, I like the RPG. Like it goes hand in hand very well with an open world. So I liked it. Like I said before, I don't like the Spartan core thing, the mechanic, what it looks like, what it is. I don't like it. I think they could have done that better. But I do like doing it. I like how they did it, that it was just things you didn't have to do, but they did help you. The different modules and stuff.
Yeah, all the equipment, or whatever
The
it's
equipment,
called,
yeah.
like you have to find like that's on the path. So you have to pick that all up, but you can choose whether or not you want to upgrade it or not, which it's helpful, but you don't have to. Okay, let's talk about the UNSC. The UNSC is a roller coaster of ups and downs and powerful and down and out. As I read through all the games, like we're running and then we're finding the Halo and then we stop them and then for a little period of time we become really powerful, the UNSC, but then we get smacked back down by Cortana, and then we always figure out a way to overcome the terrible situation that we're put in the galaxy, all that sort of stuff. Krista, I'll start with you on the UNSC. State of UNSC. Like, are we feeling like we're in an okay spot now, or are we still? I mean, there's still lots of threads to go down. There's lots of places to go,
we have
unanswered questions. Like, how are we feeling right now?
Oh, the UNSC's not doing good, right? I mean, we just came off of the heels of Cortana, and then Atriox comes in and absolutely wrecks the Infinity.
Which we don't know where the Infinity is. Like, that's not answered at all.
No, we don't know where it is. We don't know if it's even functional. We don't know where Lasky, Halsey, all those characters are.
Blue team, right?
Yeah, blue team. So we're missing a lot of UNSC. I mean, it is just Chief and the pilot and a handful of Marines that are currently on this ring. So, yeah, I mean, it's not looking good, and we haven't gotten any information about what's going on with them right now, which makes sense. Chief's cut off, but it's going to be interesting to see what we come back to.
Are you feeling better? So at the end of Halo 5, things were dire. Are they as dire? Or does the fact that we've taken Cortana out of the equation now and the Guardians and that threat, do you feel like, okay, maybe this is something we can overcome? Because at the end of Halo 5, I was like, shit, we're fucked. Here, I don't feel we're as fucked, but we're still fucked.
Yeah, we don't...
It's really all down to what's the situation with the created.
Yeah.
Like, are they still in charge, in power? You know? So we don't know.
That's true. Like, they even without Cortana, I guess my assumption is that if Cortana's gone, then the created will all just kind of go back to doing what they were doing.
But now they're immortal
so.
and have access to the domain.
Yeah, why would they leave the domain? I couldn't see a lot of them coming back, especially not the ones that, like, committed atrocities against humanity.
Yeah, so that could be another faction to deal with moving forward still. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Any other thoughts on the state of the universe, David? Like, do you feel like coming out of this, like, there's lots of unanswered questions, sure, but do you feel like we still have enough to fight? Like, are we in such shambles that it doesn't even make sense for, like, us to win the next fight? Because there's no reason, like, we couldn't.
That's definitely the picture that they paint in this game, because you're cut off now because the ring is moved and it's just you and what's left of the Banished, and obviously you're vastly outnumbered. So it's a guerrilla warfare all the way, which is interesting. So I'd like to say, yeah, it's doable. Obviously it's doable.
Well, it has to be doable, right? But
yeah.
Otherwise, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We're down and out. We're gonna have to pick up the pieces, so it'll be interesting. And we'll talk about this in speculation. Like, where do we go from here? Because there's lots of questions. Like, what is Chief's next step? Now, I don't know. Let's talk about the Cortana and the weapon, because that definitely needs to be covered off on. I think a lot of criticism of the game was around Cortana and how they handled her. She was a big bad that needed to be dealt with. Too big of a bad, I would say. But they dealt with her off screen. We've talked about throughout the series. David, do you think they did her justice, her story justice in Infinite as a player? Or would you have rather been involved in that, right? Like, we saw memories, we saw conversations, but we were floating in space. We couldn't participate in that. Were you okay with that at the end of the day? Or would you rather have been the one dealing with Cortana face to face, or being in the mix somehow?
Yeah, I don't know. See, like, that's a very different game, and, like, I like the game that we got. Obviously, we thought it was going. We knew before the game was out that, like, it's created and they're involved and the Banished are involved. We're all wondering, like, are we going to be like a multi-faction fight on this ring for control, for power? How do we fight? Like, that was the whole thing. Like you said, she was too powerful. She was too big a bad. Like, how do you fight that? So, like, they had to answer a lot of questions. I don't like that it was done off screen. And that the whole game is you trying to figure out what the hell happened back then, 6 months ago. All that kind of stuff. I would have liked to have seen the mission. I'd like to have seen the build-up. I mean, that was what the books were about, and, like, you know, the previous books, like Shot of Reach, like, that was interesting. We saw this coming of, like, oh man, Halsey's got those frozen brains in her fridge. Let's go get them. And make a copy, which I love. I love that that's how they did it. I liked the answer, the weapon. I like that idea. We have a stripped down version of Cortana.
I'm okay with that solution.
We're going to use her to do this. I thought it was totally fine. I would like to have seen it happen. The fact that it didn't, and the fact that they hid all this, it still doesn't. I mean, I'm over it, but it still doesn't sit great with me.
I do think it's a little weird that I don't know. Is it too convenient that somehow they were able to corner Cortana? Like, I guess they need a little bit more explanation as to, because she seemed omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Like, she knew everything. She was everywhere. I mean, she seemed like she couldn't have been stopped based off of where things left off. But then somehow they were able to corner her and isolate her on Zeta Halo with the weapon, and then all this other stuff went bad. So I'm not exactly sure how that all played out. But in order to move the story forward, that needed to happen. So they needed to write it in a way for this to be, for Cortana to be taken out of the equation. Chris, any thoughts on this stuff?
it's such a hard thing to talk about just because we have Master Chief in the picture, right? So anything that happens with Cortana is just so overly complicated because if we saw that in-game at real time, it's complicated because Master Chief is right there, right? Mm-hmm. Is Master Chief really going to let anything happen to Cortana no matter what's going on?
Okay.
Sure.
Is he going to be able to kill her? It was definitely an easy decision for them to kill Cortana off screen because then Chief has absolutely he doesn't have to make any kind of moral, decisions. He doesn't have to betray the UNSC. It's already happened. The decision's already been done. He doesn't have to do anything. So I think that's the biggest complication there. Because did we really want Chief facing off against Cortana? Is that something Chief would have done?
Yeah, like a Cortana boss battle?
Yeah.
What would that have been?
Yeah. I mean, and also how do you even fight Cortana? Of course, the weapon locks her down or whatever, but, and then if Atriox is attacking Cortana, I mean, then we would get a preemptive fight between Chief and Atriox. Mm-hmm. And then Cortana would be there too, so it's definitely way more complicated with Chief being present during the events that happened. So, I mean, it was definitely way easier for them to just write, the events had already happened and you're just discovering them. Kind of makes it a little cleaner for them to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about Cortana 2.0?
Oh, I love the weapon. I think she's freaking adorable. I love her.
Yeah, the weapon's great.
You're okay
Very
with
well
the
done.
baton being passed to her?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I hope she doesn't call herself Cortana. I'm not cool with that. I think that's a little weird. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to complicate the story and stuff. But, no, I love her. I think she's great. I love her personality. She's hilarious.
So you're okay.
She's a great companion to Chief because of how innocent she is.
Mm-hmm. So they did a good job then, because Cortana needed to be dealt with, and I think it would have been weird if she kind of somehow reverted back to what she was before. She was too far gone. They wrote her to be too big to be then all of a sudden, oh, I'm just Cortana again. Something needed to happen, a replacement needed to happen, something, right? So I agree. I feel like they did a good job throughout this game of passing that baton. Where we've talked about in the past, are they eventually going to pass, is Chief going to pass the baton to another Spartan? I feel like that's going to be difficult. But they did manage to pull it off here, where the weapon is now, the new partner for Chief. And it seems like people are okay with it. I think so, in general, just reading comments and seeing what the community's appetite is for that sort of thing. David, do you agree with that? I mean, it sounds like you're on board with the weapon, and you're okay with the weapon being 100%. On your shoulder and in your hand moving forward.
Yeah, no, she's great. I'm quite happy with her. The fact that she's just like a Cortana if she never met John. I mean, that's a perfect starting point. And then you don't have her corrupted and tortured by the grave mind. You don't have her interfacing with. Obviously, she seemed to be able to handle interfacing with the ring better than Cortana did originally. I mean, the situation is probably different, but that obviously forced her rampancy. So I like that. And then obviously, she also has the cautionary tale of Cortana to see. To know, okay, that I don't want to become that. And there's great moments in the game. I didn't realize that would be a moment where she has that realization of I'm her. Mm-hmm. I thought that was marvelous. So yeah, no, I think she's great.
Cool. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. It'll be interesting to see what they do with her maturity. If she's gonna become Jen Taylor, we love. She's created a voice for Cortana. Because she has a level of maturity as an AI, will Weapon soon just become Cortana's voice? Or is she going to maintain some sort of naivety, throughout? That'll be interesting to see how that happens. And it'll also be interesting to see what they do with the threat of rampancy. Weapon is fresh, so she's young. It shouldn't be anything to worry about, at least for the next little while. But eventually, that 7 years will be up, so...
Yeah, are they gonna cure her rampancy? What's going on?
Yeah, you want to. I mean, that hasn't been addressed in any of the lore yet. I mean, obviously, the state of the humanity and like the world with like AIs. Like, what's that going to be like now after they're created? Surely they're not making other AIs anymore, right?
Yeah, I guess they
Humanity,
haven't been,
so.
right?
Yeah.
So maybe that.
And then they'll have to adapt their culture, you know, because obviously they were heavily involved in a lot of human life.
Yeah, that's a lot of like UNSC human policy stuff that'll probably need to be addressed in all the books, and then just be given like a one-liner, like, oh, we don't do that anymore, or we had to change our policy, or something like that. But AIs.
Well, and we already know that there's already like shady AI organization that's been chugging along in the background for God knows how long, kind of pulling the strings. I think it's like the Coalition or something like that.
Why are you doing this, John?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Why don't you understand?
I think it's interesting too. Throughout this whole game, we have the threat of, and this is leading into the Endless, but we have the Banished, we have Cortana.
Back to your conservatory, monitor.
Cortana never deals with the
What
Harbinger,
does that mean? What could be worse than the flood?
right? So the Harbinger's a thing, but their paths never cross. Like Cortana
No, that happens
blows
after.
up, and that happens after. So it'll be. I mean, the weapon knows the Harbinger, but Cortana never knew the Harbinger. But but Cortana apparently knew of the Endless, because there is that one scene where she said, "Both you and I know there's worse things than the Flood," which we'll talk about. So she knew that they were a thing, but she may or may not knew of the Harbinger. I look at the Harbinger as just like the first person out that was trying to do the thing. I don't know. We don't know how important the Harbinger actually was. She's named the Harbinger because she is. I'm sure she has a name in her. Within the Endless. That's not the Harbinger. She just calls herself the Harbinger because she's gonna bring forward the Endless and bring them back. And it's just a cool sounding Halo name, I guess. Sci-fi name. But that's something that's at least to consider. Like Cortana was a big bad. Harbinger and the Endless are a big bad, but there's no crossover, direct crossover. It's like one ends and then the other begins. But I guess the Banished do crossover both. Let's talk about the Endless.
The future.
You
David,
okay, Chief? I'm trying to get the armor unlocked.
what do you think? Like, we didn't get the Flood, we got the Endless, but we didn't get the Endless.
We didn't get the Endless. We just got this big bad threat that, oh no, we can't release the Endless, but we're going to, but we can't, and then we didn't. I was like, okay.
I know.
I'm a kind of mixed.
3.
I'm not sure, because like there's a lot of questions obviously where we're thinking about, like, is the Harbinger, is her race the Endless?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
her race
'cause
is,
her
yeah.
Silex was very different than.
But it's the
The
same
other
color,
Silex
I think, and it's been
It's the same
confirmed
color,
that
but
they're
it's
the same.
Yeah,
So I think they'll look like
her.
her, maybe, or maybe I guess we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, I guess because where my brain went was that maybe the Endless aren't organic life, maybe they're machine life, because obviously the Halo ring didn't work on them, and that's why they were imprisoned. So, but that's where my brain. But then obviously the Harbinger looked organic, so I was like, is she maybe part of the Endless or not part of the Endless, or what's her relationship to the Endless? I don't know, especially because like her Silex wasn't with the rest of them; she was off somewhere else.
So I think Krista has a bunch of good stuff for us to talk about here. But before I hand it off to Krista, were you disappointed that we didn't get to fight the Endless? Like, was there enough in the game to make it like the 3-faction battle thing wasn't really a thing? It was a little bit of a thing, but not really. Like, normally we're fighting the Flood and something, and the Covenant, or we're fighting the Prometheans and the
I
Covenant.
don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind that
I expected.
3-faction thing so much. I would have liked it created. We're here in Force. I think that's still not answered, but whatever. That's fine. I guess I'm disappointed that by the end of the game we still don't know anything about them other than Endless. Do you know what I mean? I wish we definitely knew a bit more. I know the legendary ending touches off a little bit, and there's the Forerunner artifacts kind of touch on little bits, but I definitely would have liked more information, especially if we're not even going to see them in this game.
Anything I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
But they're the motivating factor for like half of the people in the game. So
Here.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna hand it off to Krista to kind of talk about some theories about the Endless, and there's some time travel stuff that I think is gonna be included. Installation 00, friend of the show, the Ark, Arky, as we call it.
Arky, yeah.
He put out a good video about kind of the flood and the Endless and why weren't the Endless able to be destroyed by the ring. So go watch that. I think there's some good thinking in there. But I think some time travel-y stuff is gonna be part of the equation moving forward, at least for a little while. So what did you uncover, Krista?
Okay, there's quite a bit.
Oh, that's not so
During the legendary ending, they definitely do talk, like you said, about time travel, time, stuff like that. So I think, like you said, that's going to be some kind of thing going on. But as for the Endless themselves, if you look at the symbol on their silexes, we've seen that symbol before on Genesis in Halo 5.
Oh, we did.
Yes, so that is not a symbol that has come out of nowhere. Someone on Reddit also made the comparison between some of the symbols that the engineer was writing on the walls in Halo ODST.
Oh.
It kind of had a similar structure with like the kind of Y and then 3 symbols on either side of the Y.
Okay, straight to a lot.
So people are thinking that. People are thinking, you know, a bridge between organic and non-organic life, whether
For an initialization
the Endless are a hybrid of organic and inorganic life, or if they are completely inorganic but have some kind of sway over organic life, thus the Harbinger. People have noticed that when the Harbinger takes off her helmet, it makes a distinctive sound, like something's deactivating.
I can remove it from the network.
So people have been thinking that maybe the Harbinger is just a speaker for the Endless, or something similar to that. So the Endless would have like kind of different races associated with it. It would have like the Harbinger race, and then they would have the Endless proper.
Oops, I think she knows I'm...
The Endless are considered to be a hive mind as well.
Oh, okay.
So obviously that's very nice. We like to have hive minds. The only other hive mind that we have seen is the Flood. So that is another big thing that could be happening here. It could be some kind of hive mind. And then of course,
Drones have a hive mind, do they?
yeah,
Kind of, yeah.
kind of. I don't think it's like a psychic connection though.
True.
So, and then we kind of come to the speculation of precursors and flood. And if you don't know, the precursors are the race that came before the Forerunners that kind of set everything up. They were destroyed by the Forerunners for very complicated reasons. And the precursors, some of them kind of moved on and hid themselves. Some of them became dust, which thus created the Flood. And so the Gravemind is considered to be kind of a precursor of some sort. So we have the precursors in play in some respect. And the precursors are important because they are kind of the why for pretty much everything that's going on in the Halo universe. Like, why is all of this happening?
Yeah.
Why were the Halo rings created? Why are the Forerunners the way they are? The precursors are the big kind of overarching thing in the Halo universe. Some of the speculation is that the Endless are a type of precursor that might have been either different in some way, had different abilities, or had meshed themselves with their technology. And precursor technology is not like ours, it's kind of a neurotechnology.
Like it?
Yeah, so that's another that's another theory. So the Endless are some sort of faction of the precursors, thus kind of when they're talking in the end cutscene, they're talking about how, you know, this needs to be forgotten, this can't be found out. And that's a huge overarching theme within the Forerunners relating to the precursors. The Forerunners genocided the precursors and then completely covered it up from their society. No one knows that the precursors even existed. So that would be a good reason. Also, since the precursors are pretty much the big enemy of the Forerunners at that time. So it would make sense for them to be contained in some way, and it also would make sense for the precursors to have some kind of immunity to the Halo rings. Yeah, it's quite a lot.
There's a lot of questions.
yeah, there is a lot of questions. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I would rather have some kind of connection with the precursors. I think that would be great. Something that is kind of backing up this theory and, you know, connection to the precursors, connection to the Flood, is that the Harbinger herself kind of has a couple lines that echo what the Gravemind has said previously. One of the big ones is in the audio logs called The Prisoner, and The Prisoner is an interesting callback to what one of the precursors was called when it was put in stasis.
Yeah.
So they found one of the precursors, they called it The Prisoner. So that's interesting. And so in the 5th audio log of that, called Barely Anything Left, the Harbinger at the end says, "Quiet, I shall talk and you shall listen," which is a direct quote of the Gravemind in Halo 2. So we don't know whether, I mean, the thing about the precursors is that they were able to kind of change their flesh into whatever they kind of wanted to be. They have different forms and stuff like that. So, I mean, it could be that the Harbinger is some kind of precursor, or some connection to the Flood and the Endless and whatever else is going on. But if it's worse than the Flood, I'm hoping that it is precursor proper, which would be super, super cool. So those are some of the theories that are going around. Kind of the fun of it is to theorize and see what is actually going to happen. And usually it is something that none of us have ever expected. So we shall see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the fun of Halo. That's why one of the reasons we love Halo is at the end of the Halo game, there's a lot of questions, a lot of things that could happen next, and I think Bungie did that well. 343 is continuing that, where lots of hanging threads, little bits of information. It's almost like they're sitting back and, you know, they're kind of like, are they fucking with us?
They are. They're always fucking with us. So
they know the answers, right? Or maybe they're formulating the answers still.
Maybe. Who knows how far ahead they look.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to bring in time travel because there would be so many interesting set pieces. Especially considering, you know, just everything the Forerunners happened, ancient humanity, you know, the original installations, the Forerunner capital, the domain, precursor technology, the precursors themselves.
Okay, I'm done here.
There could be a lot of interesting set pieces that come up. The only issue I could see is that it's very complicated, and some of this is very deep book lore, and the games have kind of put a little bit of the book lore in, but not too much, because it gets very messy to explain. So we'll see what happens, because it's very messy. And you obviously don't want like a Final Fantasy cutscene that lasts for like an hour explaining what the fuck is going on. So the balance between what's going on in the games and the greater universe, where it's a bunch of crazy stuff happening that it's like, is that even Halo? So we'll see what happens, and we'll see how they are able to balance that out. So that's about it. I that's all I have on the Endless.
That's good.
And what's going on with them.
I think the question that has yet to be answered, and this isn't like a community question, which we'll cover, is like why, like Cortana seemed very confident that the Endless are worse than the Flood. We don't know why that is. Like, if there is time travel involved, like, why is time travel the ability to manipulate time? Why is that worse than the Flood, which consumes everything, right? Like, and that's part of what the Installation 00 question or video went into. But his theory was more about like the combination of time manipulation with the Flood. Like, that's a bad combination. But when it is separate, why should we fear the Endless more than we should fear the Flood? That is yet, like, as of now, the Floods still seem worse than the Endless.
Well, I mean, if you have the ability to time travel, you can go back in time and you could kill Master Chief as a baby and then none of the Halo events happen.
Yeah.
So you get these paradoxical, you know, branching universes that also gets kind of messy. It's like kind of BioShock Infinite, where it's like I have no idea what's going on anymore.
Or it could be the case that they're unkillable, and then it was, okay, you combine that with the Flood in your crazy mix.
Right.
And we're bad. Very bad time.
So lots more to uncover. I'm sure we'll get some answers. Hopefully we'll get some answers on the Endless next game. I feel like they have to tell us more. And we'll actually encounter the Endless.
It's pretty in your face that Atriox succeeds and releases the Endless at the end of this game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're here. He succeeded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we don't know. I mean, this is... Well, I guess at the end of Halo 5 too, like, this is the furthest we know in the timeline. There's a couple books that may take us maybe just a little bit forward, but we're not going to find out about the Endless, like, proper what they are until we either get more marketing or we get a new DLC, a new expansion, whatever's going to come next. So lots to look forward to, I feel like. Okay, let's do a quick... We're already running long, but let's just do a quick comparison and talk about how Halo Infinite stacks up to the other games in the series. We'll stick it to FPS games. It's more of a direct comparison. How do we do this? So we still go through our categories: gameplay, weapons, vehicles, enemies, level design, lore, and characters. Ooh, that's a lot to cover. let's just kind of, top level it a bit. Gameplay wise, Halo Infinite gameplay, is this the best that we've gotten gameplay wise? Krista, are you feeling good about Halo Infinite and where we've left off?
I think it's fantastic. I think the open world and the grappling hook has changed so much in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've gotten away from the silly, like, Spartan stuff from Halo 5 and kind of gone back to classic kind of Halo 3-ish, Halo 2-ish vibe to it, maybe Halo Reach. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's great. I think it's a good evolution of Halo's gameplay.
Do you agree, David?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's brilliant.
So if the rest of the games were kind of on this path, you'd be happy moving for the next couple games?
Yeah, I'd like to see the next spin-off. You do something else. Like, it doesn't always have to be open world, but like, the open world is great.
And like the equipment, the way that it's done, and
I like it all.
And stuff like
I do. I like the process of the unlocking and stuff like that was good. And, yeah, it's good. It's a very... They did a fantastic job building on Halo and giving us something new.
So if you're going to fire up a Halo because you want the best Halo gameplay, are you firing up Infinite, or are you still firing up Halo... I don't know. I like Halo 5. That's gameplay separate from the story. Or do you go all the way back to Bungie era games? Well,
you can't do a whole lot in this game in terms of just jumping in. That's kind of hard to do because of the way they built the game. So, like, I know we need a level select, a mission select,
that's coming.
Something like that.
Yep,
coming. To make that game more playable in terms of that way of just jumping in.
Mm-hmm. Well, multiplayer, but still from campaign standpoint.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'll ask the question: do you think this is the best gameplay for Halo, or would you prefer to play a different game over Infinite? Or maybe it's just too different. Maybe it's just like, I feel like I want to play Halo 2 today, so I'm going to do that, and I know the restrictions of Halo 2 and the balance.
I think this is the best because I like with all like the mechanics they've added into gameplay, like grappling and stuff like that, and mantling. I love it. Yeah, it probably is the best.
What about weapons? How do you feel about the weapon variety and whatnot here, David? I'll stick with you.
It's great. I like all the variations that they put into the campaign. I'm really happy with how they did the FOBs and like summoning in weapons anytime you want is great. Mm-hmm. I do like that a lot. I think they did a great job with the weapons in this game.
Yeah, there's a lot to do, and they have like you said, the variations is good. There's a couple missing, like a couple of classic ones that I felt like were missing. That for some reason I wanted a fuel rod cannon in this game. I don't know why, but maybe the Ravager kind of comes in. The Ravager still, I'm torn on that weapon. Krista, what do you think about the weapon mix?
I think it's good. I liked all the new additions. Like, the Stalker rifle is super, super cool. I love it. Mm-hmm. I like the new Forerunner weapons. I think they feel a lot more Forerunner. I like how there weren't too many of them either. They kind of kept it to a minimum. But no, I love all of the banished weapons. They make so much sense with the banished. The skewer is just the worst thing I've ever seen. It's so brutal.
The shock rifle was an introduction, and that mechanic of the shock mechanic was an introduction. How did you feel like that was? Did that take a while to get used to, or did you feel like that felt fine after you saw it?
The shock did take some time to get used to, but once I got the hang of the shock rifle, holy shit, that thing is awesome. I love the shock rifle.
Yeah, and that's weird that that's a banished weapon. But
yeah, that is kind of weird. I don't know.
That must be their thing. Yeah, I'm good with the weapon. There's lots of weapons. Of course, we could probably have a whole different podcast about the weapons of Halo Infinite and how they compare. But overall, happy with. I knew that I could pick up something, a rocket launcher, a skewer, if I needed to have a heavy battle, or I knew I could always go back to that BR. Happy with that BR.
And I like the ammo crates.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good mechanic.
Yeah, it's a video game mechanic, but it works.
Yeah.
I think it was fine rather than having to scavenge everything. I liked always being able to keep my weapon if I wanted to.
Yeah, I liked how they classified it as weapon type, and then you just got the ammo type that you needed for that. They didn't spend too much time going into that, which I like.
Yep.
Are you okay?
Vehicles. Scorpion wasn't a big fan of for this game.
No, me neither.
Like it. I don't know. There's something about it. It was a little too slow, a little too clunky. It wasn't my favorite Scorpion. I typically love the Scorpion, but I think everything else was pretty good. Like the Wasp was good, but it also was paper thin, as people have said. I didn't fly the Banshee too much, but there was a good variety overall.
And you did, right?
Krista, thoughts on vehicles?
Yes.
No, I think it was pretty appropriate for what's going on.
Would you
No,
like
I
to
think-
fly a Pelican? Like, would they miss out on that?
I mean, what are we gonna do with the Pelican? Crash it? They added that to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just go there.
That's true.
I mean, I think the Pelican is too much because you could just go anywhere,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the Pelican just gives you a little too much freedom, maybe. Maybe if we had access to the whole ring, that would be fun. But for this tiny part of the ring, might be too much power.
She was important to
No,
you.
I like the video. I like the vehicles a lot. I feel like the flying vehicles completely break the game a little bit. So it's good that
Yeah.
you get that at the very end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But no, I think it's really fun. It's cool that you get to summon them and just. I feel like driving around the ring today in my Warthog, and you can just do that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm still here?
David, any other thoughts on vehicles? Did you have a favorite
No,
vehicle?
It's a great question. Oh yeah, it's obviously the Warthog. You know what I mean? Fill it up with Marines and away you go.
Not the
baby.
Warthog, the Razorback.
The Razorback. Yeah,
Razorback.
that's my favorite in this game. That just how that worked out was so well.
It's funny that the Razorback, your favorite is the Razorback that doesn't have any weapons on it. You have Marines in the back.
I just give all my Marines all the guns. Me and the boys, we go for a drive.
Yeah.
Something.
The Scorpion tank is terrible in this game, and even it just doesn't work well with the way they built the map.
Really?
You just can't take it anywhere. I think I don't like it at all, and everything else is grand. It's kind of a smaller vehicle roster, really, because you've just got the small Unity ones, and that's kind of it.
Let's do this.
There's a couple of ghosts, a brute choppers around the place, but not a whole lot of wraiths. You don't see too many of them in the game.
You know,
But I like it. No,
might
the vehicles are good.
actually
Other than that,
Enemy-wise, were you happy with enemies and the variety, David? Like, was there enough there? Were you missing three
loved-
faction battles or not?
I can't
no, I don't think we missed it. I mean, because the Banished felt good to fight. I liked them spread out over the ring. I wish there was a bit more mechanics to like the bases and stuff, but I did like them.
see what we have.
I wish there was more of that and more of them like traveling around and doing different things that I'd like to see. But the actual enemy types themselves I thought were great. The skirmishers were kind of pointless. I don't know why they... Not skirmishers, sorry. Skimmers. I don't really feel the need necessary for it, especially when you have the drones. You've just made a drone and a grunt and put it in the game.
Gonna
So
need to get
Yeah.
I didn't feel
samples
that there was a
done.
need for them, to be honest,
Thought it would be
to be brought in.
It's fine.
But other than that, the Banish felt good.
Are you okay?
Anything you think would have made it better, Krista, from an enemy standpoint,
nothing.
variety standpoint? Like, if we had Prometheans, would that have been too much?
No, I don't like the Prometheans. No, I think it was perfect. I don't think we need 3 factions to fight. You know, I know that's kind of a classic in Halo, but I did not miss it at all. I think adding a new faction would have just made it a bit messy. So yeah, no, I think it was perfectly fine. I'm happy with the enemy variety.
Is there another game that stands out in your head as a better mix? Like, is Halo 3 a better mix of enemy variety?
I mean, Halo 3's got a lot of shit going on.
Yeah. Because they got Flood in there too.
Yeah. And elites are on your side, and I mean, definitely Halo 3 has the best variety, but that is because it is like a penultimate game to that trilogy.
You mean
the ultimate?
The ultimate, yeah.
Yeah.
Apex.
Halo 2's the penultimate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm happy too. The boss battles are good. I feel like that's a good mechanic. I'm looking forward to seeing that continue, and it makes sense with the Banished. I think it'll make sense, video game wise. I think that's a good natural progression. Maybe not as many boss battles are needed. Maybe just fewer that are more difficult or something like that. But I do think it was missing that big set piece moment too, like where you're fighting scarabs. Like, that was missing. Like, it would have been cool to have some big structure or big giant thing that you had to take down. Not necessarily as big as that.
I'm not giving you a choice.
Oh, the Kraken. Like, that thing was too big in my mind, and you kind of fought that. But I think some bigger boss, maybe where you are you have to be in a vehicle to take it down, would be neat. But I'm sure something like that is going to work. Okay, a couple more we'll try to cover off on quick. Level design. Totally different thing, because we have the open world. So we have the open world, then we have all of the outposts and the other different encounters. So I feel like that's hard to compare across the otother games. But when it comes down to the individual missions, those were the classic Halo. So how did we feel about those classic missions? Was there enough standouts in Halo Infinite as when you compare those to the older games? In my mind, I guess I'll set it up. I feel like the level design of the missions proper was done a little bit better in previous games than in Infinite. Infinite felt like a lot of times it is just a straight shot, which is a Halo thing, but I feel like some of the individual missions were better. And even if you look at the rankings that we did, like we didn't have a straight up 10. We didn't have a contender with the Ark of the Covenant in this game. Those missions are unique and very well designed. Whereas we had some pretty good missions here. David, what do you think on the level design standpoint?
Well, it's different because of the nature of this game. So, like, on the whole, like, I love the open world and its design. So, like, that's a 10 for me. Like, that's tip top. And that's where you spend the majority of the game. So, like, when I think of standout missions, I don't think of any of them that you play, really. I think of how I played in the open world. Do you know?
Yeah, that's a true point.
Which is kind of weird, but because a lot of them, the other missions then are like they're all inside Forerunner architecture, and there's only so much you can do with that, really.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of anything else in terms of the mission that stands out to me. It's still the story bits, but not.
Yeah, a lot of the reason you went into the mission was to get more story.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Krista?
I mean, I agree. I think the focus of this game was the open world and not necessarily the individual missions. Like, I feel the open world was the set piece instead of the set piece being every single mission has one. So I think it's just different. I think it's kind of like in a game like Skyrim where you go into these dungeons and the dungeons aren't spectacular. It's the world around it that's spectacular. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing stand out other than the... I think the House of Reckoning is definitely a standout because it's just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And the Banished stuff is so amazing. But no, I think the focus of this game is the open world. I think the open world is the mission. It's the set piece.
That Pelican Down was neat. You know, that's a mission where you're kind of like the mission is in
I love that one.
Open world, which is neat. I did like the warship Gabrakan. That felt good. But there are some of the missions that are just kind of like, this isn't that great. But yeah, I mean, I think it's decent, middle of the road level design. I mean, it's hard. Like again, the open world knocked it. I think knocked it apart. They could have done some difference in diversity of, I guess, biomes, but at the same time, it made sense that this chunk of the land was all the same, right? Like if the story took us to a place where we had to go to a different biome, sure, but the story was contained here, and so I think it made sense that everything was kind of just trees and mountainy area. Like I didn't hate that. And I thought there was, just being able to scale the mountains and all that sort of stuff is great. Just having that ability in Halo now is awesome. So very happy with that. But then the individual missions design was kind of, middle of the road for me. Okay, 2 more. Lore. We talked a lot about lore, but let's just go high level. Like, I feel like there's a lot. Like, they crammed a lot in this game. The thing that we've complained about in this game is that we wanted that found footage. The audio logs, I think, are well done for the most part. There's lots of them, and they tell interesting stories. They're scattered throughout. You have to find them. But I would have liked a little bit more, like there was no really terminal moments, which the game would have benefited from a couple more terminal type situations. What do you think about that, David?
I guess it did feel
Yeah, I liked the extra stuff they put in. I definitely wanted more.
very real.
Like I said, like the found footage, I wanted to have seen more of this. I feel like they have the technology, they could have done it. Do you know what I mean?
Here.
And I do like what they gave us, but like it's weird where like we thought we were getting one game and then they immediately changed it
Yeah.
from the first like cutscene. Like it totally changed from there, and then they didn't address the created question and stuff like that, and they just gave us a new enemy. In terms of the endless, and another thing to be afraid of. I just think like the universe itself is in such like a precarious place, and it's not clear right now what the state of the universe is. And I think Halo's had that problem for a while now of like the big bad and the big thing, and then what's everyone else doing and where are they? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, the UNSC now is on we're kind of on the bottom rung again, right? We're kind of trying to fight our way back up. Would you rather have the UNSC on top and trying to defend their position, or would you rather have them kind of crawl back up into a position of power?
I don't know. Don't know what I want in terms of that. I mean, like, presumably, like with the created gone, we're back on top again.
But the
or are
banished?
we on the?
No, the
Yeah,
banished.
well, yeah. See, we're still not sure of the scale of the banished, which is like, are they just on the Ark and this ring? Is there more of them? They don't seem to have planets, right? That we know of. So, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Chris, were you happy with the amount of story we got? I feel like we got a lot of story. There may be the most amount of story in Halo Infinite out of the other games.
Nah, Halo 2 has the most story.
Halo 2 has story.
No, I think it was good. I think they had a lot to catch us up on because so much has happened between now and what happened in Halo 5. So no, I think it was good. I think they were able to introduce Atriox into the game proper very well, and the Banished. And then, of course, set up the new, like, Flood equivalent and, finish off the Cortana story and kind of get the Infinity out of the picture because it's just way too overpowered for a good story to be told around it. So, no, I think they did a good job. This whole game is just kind of setting the stage for the next things to happen.
It's a good point, though, about the Infinity, and I think this was kind of a deconstruction of where the universe was in Halo 5, and maybe they needed to do that in order to make the next game, the next expansion, more interesting. So, like, we've taken Cortana off of the table and her infinite power, and now we're just kind of back to a bunch of small skirmishes and kind of like some fist fighting and gunfights, whereas there's not really the big bad, I guess, potentially been unlocked, but we don't really necessarily know the scale of them yet. So we're bringing things back down to earth for the next story to be told, which I think is good. Yeah, so overall, I think I'm happy with where things are. I would have done some things differently in terms of what they presented in the gameplay and how we experienced them. I do think it would have been interesting to be face to face with Cortana and Chief in some capacity. I don't know how they would have done that. but we still got, you know, those tender moments, and like you said, Krista, like the Silent Auditorium is an emotional mission because of all those callbacks, and that you know, you do encounter Cortana, even though you're not encountering her, you're still seeing her memories and having those deep conversations. Character-wise, last one quickly. There's a lot of characters here. David, do you think they did a good job with the characters in Halo Infinite?
Eshrum's kind of the main one, and then in terms of like the Banish, I don't think, like I said before, I really wish they had more characters on the Banish side, like that whole Hand of Atriox that didn't come across well. Harbinger's okay, but she's not in it a whole lot, and then she's gone. And then I loved Chief, I loved the weapon, which was incredible. The pilot I was up and down on, but I feel like Chief needed a human sidekick anyway, so I think he fits that role well. Even if he is a bit moany at times. But I would have liked to have seen more, like, who's leading the human forces, like, where's their structure and organization. I think there's definitely, like, places where you feel like you're missing a character or two, but the ones we got I liked a lot, and the relationships were very well told.
Krista?
To reach Cortana.
What was
Mixed?
the question again?
Oh,
Yeah.
talk about characters. Like, do you think
Okay,
the
yeah.
characters were well written? Were they well done? Do we have enough of them?
Character-wise, I think that the game has a lot of stuff going on. I think it was smart for them to kind of take out some of the UNSC characters that we know and love, just because it kind of will complicate things a little more with the different dynamics that are going on. I think having a simple story with Chief kind of learning who everyone is within the story is a pretty good point to start off on. And then now they've set up this core cast, they can start reintroducing other Halo characters in there. So I feel like this was a good cast of characters to have in a game like this, where it's supposed to be small and contained, and like one story of being separated from everyone else. So they've established these characters, they've established a camaraderie between them, and now we can start reintroducing some of those characters we know and love to the new cast, or the current cast.
Yeah, well said. I think I agree with that. The only character I'm a little iffy on is the Harbinger, and we probably won't have to deal with her anymore. But what was the mission where it was like halfway through the game, and I was like, where the Flood? We got to deal with her. Or like at that moment, the middle of the game, they could have introduced that third faction. They could have introduced the Endless for us to fight. But we were just introduced to the concept of the Endless, as opposed to like meeting the Flood halfway through CE and then fighting them and having them be a constant threat. So she was the only weird one. I guess they probably needed to have her. They maybe even could have done her just in terminals or something like that. But you know, she's fine, I guess. But she's my least favorite of the new characters. You know, Eshrum's good. You know, the Jaga's obviously good, and all the Banished characters. I'm a huge fan of Atriox already, so super happy that he's a major threat now moving forward. And then the trio, you know, I'm happy with this trio. You know, this will be good moving forward. I like having the pilot to you know, to give us that human aspect of it. He's an okay faux hammer replacement. He's not faux hammer, but he'll be all right. Okie dokies. Let's rank the games quick, and we'll just do a hair of speculation afterwards. Where does Halo Infinite fall in your list now, David? Where are we? CE still first?
I don't know. This is very high up there. It's definitely between that and CE for me. I really, really loved the open world campaign, and I had such a blast playing this game. So it might be pretty damn high, to be honest. Maybe it's my number one.
Wow. Okay. Love
Maybe.
Whoa.
Does your other ranking? Your ranking is in the notes here. Does that hold?
I'm looking at it. Yeah. That's still true. Is it better than ODST? I think it is better than ODST. I think I do like this more than
List it
ODST.
off for the listeners.
Yeah, number 1 CE, then 2 ODST, then Reach,
Well,
then
no,
4,
what is
then
Infinite?
5.
You gotta put Infinite.
Infinite will. It's number 2. It's number 2.
Okay, so list it off with Infinite.
1 CE, then we have Infinite, then ODST, then Reach, then 4, then 5, then 2, then 3.
3's the bottom.
3's at the bottom, guys.
Krista?
Okay, my current is 2, 3, CE, Reach, ODST, 4, 5. I think it's after 3. I would say 2, 3, Infinite, CE, Reach, ODST, 4, 5.
Okay. It's top tier.
Mr.
It's
Perkins.
top 3.
Top 3.
Man.
Sorry, E. CE.
I really like Halo 3. I think I still like Halo 3. Just because some of those battles and those set pieces and the Ark and the Covenant are in there. But I'll put it at number 2, happily. I'll go Halo 3 still. And then Infinite, Reach, Halo 2, ODST, Halo 5, Halo 4, and then CE at the bottom for me. Again, it's only down there because it's fairly simple. I love CE. Love all of them. But, yeah. That's a weird exercise to do.
Yeah.
Because they're all different for everybody. Everybody's different. All right. Let's talk about real quickly, where do they go from here? Briefly, like what is the next chapter? What is that going to be? Krista,
I hope it's
or David,
DLC.
go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I hope it's DLC. I hope you get a single player DLC. I'm not overly confident of it now.
Not like a full expansion. It's just gonna be like a little story, a couple hour story DLC thing.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure because 343 are like all over the place at the moment, and obviously they're trying to do a whole lot of stuff in terms of the multiplayer and keep that going, as well as bring Forge and bring co-op, and I'm hoping it's been delayed that maybe it'll come with content. That'll be very exciting. Be introduce a second character or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool.
A second character, like another Spartan, you mean?
Yeah, there's more to play there. I think there's more to do in that space. They have, like, the game's structure sets them up very nicely for additions, and obviously you can just have missions against the banished now. Do you know, Spartan ops can be done again. Do you know what I mean? So I love that. I hope they bring in a base building element to the game where you're building up your forces. I'm convinced that was cut, that there was an element to this game where the Tremonius base was supposed to be something more than what it ended up gameplay wise.
That'd be cool.
So obviously they have, it's banished, it's all banished now, to be honest, in terms of the games. I think that's where the story's going to go, and this Atriox and Endless partnership.
You think we'll see the Endless in the next game?
Yes, absolutely.
What about the Infinity?
I think it'll be answered. I don't know if we'll see it, because they have to bring those characters back, right? So like, they have to bring Lasky, Halsey, Blue Team, who weren't on the Infinity. They were off on a mission, but they got to come back in. Osiris. There's more. There's stuff happening here. More to see. Arbiter, what's he up to? What's Arbiter doing?
Arbiter. Krista, any speculation, any predictions for the next installment?
Well, we definitely know that the Endless and Atriox are probably going to be bigger players within the next one. Who knows whether it's going to be Installation 07 that's the major set piece? They're kind of hyping it up quite a bit, though, and especially if this is where the Endless are going to kind of spring out of, we might be on Installation 07 for quite a bit longer, because it's different. This ring is different.
It is different.
Did you
That's
know
my
that?
thought. I feel like we're going to stick around.
Especially since 343 did the whole, like, oh, this is a 10-year plan, yay. So we'll see if they're just gonna add DLC and call it something. Who knows whether Blue Team or any of those characters are going to enter the fray.
Do you want them back?
It would be nice, but how much help are they really going to be? I think Blue Team would, but is that going to make the story messy? It's hard, because is Chief just going to be on his own fighting the Endless, or is he going to have help? Is he just going to have to figure it out by himself? I would feel like the next thing Chief would do in his current situation is try to make contact with the remains of the UNSC anyway and try to go back to base.
Yeah.
So,
Like, Hood's out there somewhere, you know?
he's at Earth.
Is he back on?
No, he's on the moon.
No, he was.
Oh, was he on the
left off
moon?
somewhere.
Because he was
Black
talking to
box,
Cortana in one of the cutscenes.
Not Paragotsky, what's their name?
Osmond.
Osmond.
Yeah, Osmond. That was he
Osmond's
was
still on
Earth.
Rushback's world, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's where Hood is.
Oh, okay. So they're hanging out there.
I mean, the
Yeah.
UNSC just scattered. So I guess the Chief does have a little bit of, like, does he go back? Does he continue the mission and deal with whatever's in front of him, or does he try to regroup? I don't know.
Making things right.
Chief is a mission kind of guy. I don't think he regroups.
Yeah. Or maybe
Stays on mission.
the UNSC find him and regroup with him. Who knows? Yeah, I feel like they're gonna do some. They have to do some stuff with the Endless. Obviously, like, we're gonna find out what the Endless are and fight the Endless. But I think there's gonna be some weird time manipulation, time travel-y stuff. I don't know how far they're gonna take it. I don't think we're like gonna go back to the Roman times or anything like that. But like, there's gonna be something where, and I feel like maybe this is as we were having this show and like watching the Atriox legendary ending again and listening to everything that's going on. You know, we talk about him wanting to find a home. He saw Doizak destroyed. Now the ring is his new home. He found this race that may be able to manipulate time. Do you think he would try to figure out a way to restore Doizak with this time manipulation aspect?
That would definitely be a huge motivation for him to even be on the ring and be doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, if he found a race that could turn back time and
Like, in the right way.
yeah, and make Dozek whole again.
Yeah. So maybe that's going to play, who knows?
But I don't see Atriox as someone too concerned with the past.
That's true. I mean, that was the question that Cortana asked him. He said,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it the same way.
I think the revenge would be plenty for him instead of resurrecting an entire planet. I just don't see Atriox as the kind of person to do that. I don't know.
Yeah. So does
He's
he
very
just wanna-
complicated.
Yeah. Does he just want to be in charge? We still don't know exactly what he wants. You know, like with the prophets, we knew what they wanted, even though it was misguided. We kind of knew what they wanted. With Atriox, we still don't exactly know what
He
what
wants
his
to be the
endgame is.
coolest Halo villain.
Yeah, he wants the biggest stick.
They will make sure.
And then there's the Infinity. I feel like they need to pull in the Infinity in some capacity and pull in some other characters. So I think we're gonna have like another Spartan. Maybe it's a new set of Spartans. Maybe we won't find Blue Team. I would love to have some little like side stories, you know, couple-hour experiences where we're going off on the side. Maybe finding Fred, finding Linda, finding Kelly. That sort of stuff would be cool. Still have ODSTs that we could pull into play. Like, they weren't present at all, which makes sense because there's no big thing in the sky. But yeah, there's just lots of places that we could go. So I think definitely Endless, and then hopefully pulling back in characters from previous games for the next installment.
You know that, right?
Okay, what's next for you? I would say take a little break from Halo for a little while because we don't really know what is next. We don't have any sort of a roadmap from a campaign standpoint, like what's the next story stuff. So I think Phil, just, you know, sit back, relax. Don't join in the conversation that's going on where Halo's dead and all this other stuff. I feel like that's a lot of multiplayer driven anyway. But just, you know, if you're not feeling it, just take a little break. Go play something else. There's plenty of other games to play. And then when 343 is ready to give us some more stuff, they'll give us some more stuff. Hopefully we at least know. I'm just hoping that they set expectations sometime soon, right? Like, you will hear about the next Halo campaign stuff on X day, or around X day, or in X month. So we at least know what to expect. And so once they set our expectations, then I'll be happy. But in the meantime, I would say just maybe unplug for a bit. There's not a lot's going on. We have the Rubicon protocol coming up here, hopefully, as the time of this recording, within a month or two. We have Divine Wind, which got pushed into 2023, so that'll hopefully at least fill in some blanks in the story, maybe move us a little bit forward. But I don't feel like we'll move forward story-wise completely with the Endless and Atriox and all this other created. Who knows where the Infinity is until we get another game to play. There will be network co-op as well, so that's coming up pretty soon. It doesn't sound like that's couch co-op because they're specifically saying network co-op. So you're gonna be able to play multiplayer online campaign in a couple weeks here, hopefully in August or so, I think is the plan. And then if you want to go watch Halo the series, Krista, maybe go finish watching Halo the series. That could be a thing you could do.
I gotta get to that juicy sex scene.
So lots of stuff that you could do, or just like I said, unplug for a little bit. Don't worry about Halo for a while. They'll be back. They'll keep making Halo for the foreseeable.
I know. Think faster.
All right, let's do a community question. And we will get out of here.
Would it help if I said
Krista,
yes?
keep Discord up.
But we don't know where it's
Yup.
going, or even if it's going anywhere.
Alright, Colin has asked, why are the Endless worse than the Flood? Question for Mission Debrief, Halo Infinite Recap episode. So, Matt says, because unlike the Flood, they reproduce sexually and they're not very discerning lovers. Toki McPot says, because we didn't see them, thus only fighting one faction in a Halo game. The horror. Jedi Spartan 38 says, because they are the harbinger of our perfection and the vanguard of our destruction. The pesky perv says, because they came up with the Cheez-It taco at Taco Bell. Oh, I can't wait to eat that.
I think the better question.
Oh, we talk about a lot of fast food in the Discord. Organized Crime says, the Forerunners were actually willing to experiment on the Flood, despite it being their downfall. They didn't even try with the Endless, from what we know. They just fucking threw them in prison and shoved a key up their arse.
True.
We really know fuck all about the Endless, even after the whole campaign and all the Forerunner audio logs.
That brings up a good point. We didn't talk about this. Is like if they were so dangerous, how were they able to be contained so easily? That's a little weird. But hopefully we'll figure that out.
Sounds like they were tricked.
True.
Of course not.
Solakale says they're worse because they have the power to raw dog the Halo rings and come out perfectly fine, which means some people want that power. And that is it for the Discord.
Thanks, Discord.
Yay!
We'll see you soon in the future.
Facebook. Colin Perkins, the admin, June 30th at 6:35 p.m. Why the Endless worse than the Flood? Question Mission Debrief, Halo Infinite Recap episode. Richard Miller, straight off the bat, says they go in dry. Alexander says, until they show otherwise, they are not. The Flood are by far the worst. The sheer will of hunger to converge put forth from the Flood is unlike anything else in the universe. After all, they were created from the precursor dust. Clyde says because 343 made them, and their inclusion to the story of Infinite wasn't anywhere near as memorable or interesting. Randy says gameplay wise, the teleporting thing the Harbinger did really annoyed me, especially on Legendary. Armando says the Endless aren't worse than the Flood. The damn brute chieftain who protects the Harbinger is worse than the Flood. Fuck that dude. Jesse says to add to this, they're not. The Flood are by far the worst in every sense of the word, from sheer might to the annoyance in gameplay. The Flood are the kings of the worst. Jamie, the Flood would fuck the Endless up and probably already did. Jointy says they are not. Let's be honest, the Flood are worse. That could happen, period. The others scourge the world, decimate every single thing. Even the Forerunners had to hit the kill switch and wipe out an entire galaxy just to stop them. And then Manny says they are also. They are not. Nobody's buying into the Endless. Nobody's having any of it. Manny says they're not. One of the things really irks me about the storyline. So when the Flood acquires their abilities, the Flood is the most powerful. They screwed the pooch with this. They should do a side game, a la ODST, and Reach. The writing would work there. There we go.
So everybody's saying prove it. I don't believe you.
Yeah. Nobody believes.
Show me the money. We'll see. They got their work cut out for us. I mean, I have faith. I always have faith. They'll figure it out. But they have set up the Endless as being pretty bad if they're saying they're worse than the Flood. Alright, that'll do it for our recap of Halo Infinite. We did it, 22 episodes. You're welcome.
Mission Debrief is over. It's cancelled.
Well, for now.
For now.
On the next episode, we'll be
Question
playing
mark.
question mark? Question mark? Something? The endless? Perhaps? Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. You can also support the show by visiting Evolved on Patreon for everything Evolved has to offer. Visit evolvedhalo.com. Until next time, evolve.
Evolved! Yay!
We did it!
Yay.
Thank God.